2 again. Inside. Hits on the ground, left side, whip dive, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular. The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your podcast for everything Kansas City Royals. I'm Jared Perkins. That's Kevin O'Brien. We were a lot more positive on the last podcast. I don't think we're going to have that same journey happening in this one. I know we missed last week for you all. Also, schedules just got in the way, but we're back. What a time to be back, I guess.
Yeah, kind of a weird weekend. You're facing the Cardinals. You have 1985 and 2015 celebrations going on Friday, Saturday, and then we lose 2 games. But we did win today, so it wasn't a total disaster. But yeah, you're right. A lot different vibes right now, especially when you've lost 3 series in a row since our last podcast.
Yeah, and so we'll kick off with the Astros series, and then go into the Cardinals, and then we'll get into some other news. But man, the Astros series, like, it looked like the Royals were going to do exactly what they did to the Astros last time in Game 1, right? They won 7-5. Walker threw really well, 6 1/3 innings, 2 earned, 3 Ks. Schreiber came out of the bullpen, threw well. Cruz gave up 2 earned, but man, like, the offense showed up in this late in the game, but it was almost too late at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we had the Royals, against the Astros. We had that 7-5 victory, kind of got after their star Gusto pretty easily. And then kind of the Astros have one of the best bullpens in the league, so we couldn't really do anything against them. But you're right. Like, it was one of those series that for Game 1 started off really well, and you would have thought, okay, they scored 7 runs. We're missing Hunter Brown in this series. We kind of thought, all right, maybe the Royals will kind of take 2 out of 3 at the very least. And unfortunately, that just didn't happen. They ended up losing 2 out of 3, especially with a very winnable game in Game 3 that kind of slipped through their fingers.
Yeah, I mean, the Game 1 victory was really nice, right? Massey went yard. The offense was just clicking. Bobby Witt Jr. had a triple. Kyle Isbell had a double. Like, everybody was hitting. I think you had 3 guys at least with a multi-hit game in this one. And it just kind of gave me some hope. And then, like you said, kind of going into Game 2, it's like, man, the pitching staff only gives up 2 runs at the Astros, and we can't get more than a 1 run. Got 6 hits in that game. It's like no one's coming in with, we had 4, I think, runners left on base. Like, just no one's coming in clutch when we have guys on base. I just don't know who you go to on this team anymore. Like, Michael was going through his 0 for 17 streak during this Astros series, I think, as well. Mm-hmm. So, like, if he's not going and Bobby's like the only guy you're relying on, there's just no one to go to outside of Bobby and Michael. And baseball's baseball. Like, these guys are going to struggle. And it's been frustrating to not have anybody pick those guys up when they're down.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Chris Bubic in Game 2, has 9 strikeouts and 6 1/3 inning. That's kind of what you want, especially in a ballpark like, I don't know what it's called now. I think it's Daikin Field instead of Old Minute Maid. But it's like, but again, it's the Royals face Framber Valdez. We got vintage Framber Valdez, who really shut us down over 8 innings. And you're right. I mean, you have to have people step up, and it just didn't happen in Game 2. And in Game 3, it kind of happened initially, and then the Astros bullpen kind of shut us down. And so, yeah, it's kind of, we're kind of repeating a lot of the same things, especially, a couple weeks ago when we're kind of, at the beginning of the year when we're kind of struggling, and now, we're kind of back to that levels. The luster of winning 16 out of 18 has kind of worn off a little bit. We're kind of getting back to reality. And that Astros series was kind of a microcosm of like, hey, all 3 very winnable games and only winning 1. And that's just tough to stomach, especially when you have that opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just so hard too, because like look at the guys out of the bullpen. All of them are dominating. Like John Scriber is even dominating. Yes, he gave up 1 earned run. The other, I think, game 2 or whatever, which basically lost a game, but it's a 2-1 game. It's not like Scriber's going out there getting shelled. Like Lucas Ursig has been just an absolute stud out of the bullpen. And it's just like somebody just give us some runs. It's like all we're asking for is like 3 or 4 runs a game. But yeah, like you mentioned in the game, the third game of the Astros series, it's like Lorenzen gave up 4 earned, but he still gave you 7 in the third innings. And he struck out 5, and like Estevez went out there, got the other outs that you needed. But it's just it's like you lose 4-3. You're in the game, like they're in every single game. It seems like they lose. Like we had the couple of blowouts that we've talked about in the past, but it just feels like every loss is a close loss. So it almost feels worse sometimes.
Yeah, and the Royals Astros loss in Game 3 was kind of tough because the Royals got 2 runs really early. Gordon was making his MLB debut. He really didn't look that impressive. If you looked at like some of the TJ stats, the TJ stuff plus, he was under 100. He was kind of hanging a lot of pitches. The Astros tipped their hats to them. They got him out of the game like pretty early. They can afford to do that when Framber Valdez goes 8 innings the day before. And it kind of seemed like once again the Astros bullpen just kind of shut down the Royals offense. Michael Lorenzen was cruising through 7, and then he goes to 8 where his pitch count was low, and you're just thinking, hey, like let's try to conserve the bullpen a bit, and it just didn't happen. So it's a tough one to stomach because that was a very winnable game. That wasn't like one where you're like, well, they kind of got away from them early. It just kind of felt that the Royals had their opportunities to do damage early. They didn't do enough damage. They did some, but they didn't do enough. And that ability to not really string consistent offense, the Royals offense has been this whole, we get all our runs in 1 inning and then we kind of don't hit anymore. That kind of bit him in the butt, to lack of a better phrase. And that's going to be hard to compete, especially if you have higher aspirations.
Yeah, and it's just hard because like you have guys like Michael Massey that are struggling. We talked about him hitting the home run early, but then it's just been like over after that. I don't know if it's because he's learning the new position, playing more left field. It's just the bat just doesn't seem to be getting going. And the approaches are kind of mediocre. I think he's got a 224 OBP, so he's not walking either. It's just been kind of frustrating to watch. What do you have on Massey?
Yeah, I mean it's been tough. He's right now as of today. He's hitting 204 with a 500 OPS. He had another hit today. He had 2 hard hit balls, but we're kind of seeing a lot of the same things from him. It's either he's pulling the ball and they're ground balls to the second baseman, or he's hitting a lot of pop-ups. He's not really having a lot of in between, unfortunately, which is kind of a challenge. And they need him to be at least a line drive hitter. He had a couple line drives today, and I think it was one of his better today. When we'll talk about the Cardinals, but I thought today was his plate approaches were a little bit better. But we're also at May 18th right now, and we kind of need some guys to produce. And we know about Witt, we know about Michael, and we know about Vinny starting to turn around. But we're kind of at May 18th, and some of our key guys are struggling, and that's really tough to stomach because this is not like last year where we're like, if you would like last year, we're like, oh, we're 25-22. This is a great place to be.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, the expectations are higher, and and the division is better. But we have 4 teams again that are going to be competing for a division crown. So the Royal and the Tigers can't lose. So I think it's like, hey, we need to be able to find something to get back on track offensively. You hope Massey's the answer, but 500 OPS by May 18th, that's not going to be the solution no matter how you scratch it.
No, and I don't want to get us off track because I know we have to talk about the Cardinals series, but you kind of hit on it as like the division getting better. And I think I see a lot of tweets of like JJ didn't do enough to improve the offense in the offseason, which sure, they might be right, but we look at the guys that they were targeting, like Anthony Santander and Jurickson Profar. Taylor Ward was another one. He's starting to finally heat up, but he was still hitting under 200, like not as of late. So it's like, yeah, maybe they didn't do enough, but like, would those guys in the lineup right now make this team better? I don't know. They could. Maybe they would perform differently if they were in Kansas City than where they're currently at. But it's just like the options weren't great this offseason. Like,
Yeah.
unless you were going after like the Juan Sotos and the elite of the class, like that middle tier, which you usually can find a guy, a piece or two here and there, and to kind of fill your roster. The free agent market wasn't good, and the trade market seemed like it was too heavy.
And we're seeing that a lot. The problem is like, so many teams these days are buying so many of these key years in like pre-arbitration and arbitration that by the time these guys are free agents, let's just be honest, most of them are kind of already at the peak or they're past their peak in their career. And it's like, yes, you can give a 6-year deal to Anthony Santander, but I mean, he's off to a bad start. That's an albatross of a contract.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like you want to give the big contracts to guys that you know are going to be there for a long time. Giving a contract to Bobby Witt Jr. for like as long as they did, that makes sense because he's like, you know, you're going to have him for a long time. Giving a contract to Anthony Santander for like 6 years, that doesn't make any sense. But I get it. I get that the Royals needed to add a middle of the order bat. It didn't happen. It didn't happen for a variety of reasons. And like I said, should JJ have given up more? Should he have decided, hey, maybe we should have parted ways with Hunter Harvey for Starling Marte? You never know what actually happened. Was it the Mets that declined the deal? Was it the Royals that declined the deal? It takes two to tango. But, I mean, yes. I mean, would we have liked more? But you're right. I don't know what that solution would have been other than like Juan Soto, maybe Alex Bregman. But yeah. I don't know. Alex Bregman played in Houston and he went to Boston. Maybe that was his choice the whole time. I mean, it's like it's hard to – these are people. You never know what they actually want. And as much as we want to play like MLB, the show GM, it's like it's not as easy as just like, okay, I'm going to override trade sliders and have Alex Bregman come to Boston or come to Kansas City. It doesn't work that way.
No, and I think Bregman was on a podcast too. Like one of the Reds, I think he was on Section 10 with Carabas, and he was just like, my wife got into Harvard, like we wanted to play in Boston. Like, have you seen my home stats at Fenway? Like for his career, like that was the move to finish off his career. He probably wanted to go and play there, and they worked something out and got a deal done. But it's like you talked about the length of the contract, and everybody's like, oh, they should hand out 5-6 year deals. Like, I think the Royals are comfortable with handing out a 3 to 4 year deal. Like we saw it with Lugo, we saw it with Waka, we saw it with a couple of these other guys. But when you get into the 5 and 6 territory, that's when you're spending a lot more money, and it's harder to get out from underneath those contracts, right? Like if things went really bad or really south, like the team wasn't winning, you could get out from under like a 2-year or a 1-year deal of a Waka contract, right? So teams need pitching, they would trade you prospects, those kind of things. If you have an underperforming Anthony Santander on a 6-year, like $100 million deal, you're not getting out of that contract.
Right. And it's like, and you're not getting out of that contract, and it's hamstringing you from making other deals that you really want to do. It's like, well, we can't really extend Vinny because you know why? Because we are paying for Anthony Santander, and we can't have two of the same players. Yeah. And I get it. Like baseball is a little different because there's no salary cap. But you know, people are still constricted by financials. I mean, the Royals, they're if you look at Forbes, they rank about 27th, 28th in terms of franchise value. You know, it's like you can only spend the money that you have. And I'm not saying that John Sherman's a cheap owner. We see what cheap owners look like Bob Nutting from Pittsburgh and like Baltimore, right? And Dick Manfort from Colorado. Those are cheap owners. Those are cheap owners that's like they literally are like not spending money because of like I don't know what their philosophy is, but you know, I think John Sherman's spending money, but I get it. He's like, look, we're not going to spend money. And maybe JJ's like that. He's like, look, I don't want to spend $100 million on a guy that might be obsolete by year 3 of his contract. And then everybody's going to be crying about like, look at all this money we wasted. It's Hunter Dozier 2.0. And, you know, so I get that, you know, you don't want to do that. But in the moment right now with the team struggling to score runs, I get that it's easy to say we should have done more this offseason.
Yeah. Before we get in the Cardinals series, sorry to send us on this tangent.
Yeah.
Who would be the 2 bats that you'd want to see the Royals acquire?
I mean, I like Taylor Ward. I mean, I think Taylor Ward makes a lot of sense. I think he gives you the middle. He's a guy that you can comfortably put in the 5 hole and feel like, okay, this guy's good. I think he could slide up to the 3 or the 4 if like Salvi needs some pressure. off of him. So I think that's one that I would like. Another one I kind of would like, and I know this is going to sound so stupid, but I just think his price is going down so low. And I just think like you need somebody dynamic. And then if you're going to go with somebody dynamic, you might as well do something like this, try to get somebody like Luis Robert. It's like maybe like he's not doing well, but we know that he has some dynamic nature to the way he plays. It's like he obviously would be a better fit in the corner outfields. And, he doesn't have a whole ton of time left on his contract. So if it doesn't work, then it's just like, he's gone. Whatever. But he's gone. And guess what? Even if you don't want to keep him long term, maybe you can get something again. I mean, he has, it's a $20 million club option in 2026, right? So it's like you pay him $15 million. If you want to use the option, you can. If you don't, there's a lot of options I think you could do with Luis Robert, and there's some upside there. It's not great upside, but he's in a very toxic environment in Chicago. Maybe you put him in somewhere else, like in Kansas City, where it's a little younger. They're winning. He's never really been around that, for at least not since 2021. I don't know. I think maybe it could be worth a shot, and I don't think the asking price is as high as it used to be. I think right now the White Sox are like, if you want him and it's a decent package, then we'll get them off our hands, because you could tell like they're already looking to the future with guys like Tim Elko, being called up, and Edgar Caro. I mean, they're looking to the future. Robert's not going to be part of that, so might as well take a shot.
Yeah, I like the idea, Robert, just because like you said, it's a short-term contract. Like, see what happens. The one guy I would love to get is Brian Reynolds from the Pirates, but the issue with that is he's under contract until 2030. So he's 35 season. He's got a club option after that for $20 million. The average annual value, I don't think like drags your team down if he doesn't produce, right? He's at 12.25 million this year, and then it's up to 14.25, and then 15.25 from age 32 to age 35. So like he could still produce from age 32 to 35, but you just kind of worry as you start getting into the mid 30s. But I don't know. I don't feel like that's paying a guy a ton. And if he doesn't produce or kind of underproduces, I don't know if you're like, oh, shoot, $50 million, can't afford that.
And again, what's your other options at this point? Like, if you're like, it's not like there's like a ton of like elite outfielders that are coming through the pipeline. I mean, there's some good ones that we'll probably talk about.
Yeah.
But I mean, Reynolds, he plays in a park that has big dimensions like Kaufman. So like, he's not like he can't hit there. I think being on a winning team, we've seen when the team is competitive, he does better. When it's a tire fire like it is, like you could tell that it's probably weighing on him. And I definitely see Reynolds being a guy that could fit with these vibes on the Royals. So especially, Pittsburgh has very similar with a mix of veterans and youth. I think that's a good choice too. I really like that option.
Yeah. The other guy that I'll mention, sorry, I will get us to the Cardinals, but
we'll get to St. Louis soon enough.
The other guy I'm kind of interested in because he's been playing pretty decently this year is Nolan Arenado. But I don't know if the Royals are on his like trade list. I doubt they are. But he's still kind of doing the Nolan Arenado things. Like he's slashing 247, 323, 380. So like not great, but he's got 4 bombs. He's driving in runs. He's not whiffing. He's not striking out. He's playing Gold Glove defense at third base right now, which it's been a while since he's been back to that, and it looks like the arm strength is still down, but the outs above average is in the 97th percentile. So like this is a guy that I think you could plug in. He's still squaring up the ball. Like everything, the metrics are still kind of Nolan Arenado metrics. Like nothing's really kind of fallen off the table completely. And you could just slot him right at third base, maybe move Michael to second base, and then all of a sudden you got an infield that's rolling. I know corner outfield there's the biggest need, but you could even move Michael into the outfield.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I think it kind of says something that Q is kind of moving Jonathan India back to second base. Yeah. I think that kind of shows that Q is kind of like, I like Michael at third, and we want to keep him at his best position. And if you look at the StatCast data, he's traditionally been a lot better at third base. He's kind of subpar when it comes to at second base, and I think it's just because he doesn't go to his right really well. And then outfield, I don't think he's as best. I think he's been better. I actually, it sounds crazy. I actually like him in the outfield more than I do at second base. But what's Mikel's value? I mean, I think that's the thing the Royals are trying to figure out. Is this a guy that is going to be a regular no matter what? Is he more of a rotating utility guy? But if you can get if Arenado's like, hey, I want to come, then that obviously makes that decision for you. But I also think probably something has to happen. Something has to happen with India. Something has to happen with Massey, because I don't see like all four of those guys coexisting on the same team, unfortunately. So I think something's kind of got to give.
Yeah, I agree. Now we'll get into the Cardinals series.
Yeah.
Game 1, not pretty. Absolute blowout, 10-3. Cole Ragans, just as we've seen, hasn't really been looking himself this year. Something's been off. Don't know if it's still the groin cramping or groin strain that he has going on. 5 innings, 4 earned, 7 Ks. Like the punch outs are still there, but he's just giving up a lot of hard contact and running up pitch counts too. I think that's the other big thing, is that he's just not living in the strike zone like he usually does. Just not comfortable. Goes on to the IR after this. Not what you want to see when you're trying to get back on a winning streak, seeing Cole Ragans and Seth Lugo going to the IR. But what do you got on game 1 here?
Game 1 was really tough. And again, you had 1985, all the celebration with that. And it's just like you have everybody back. And the Royals just really kind of, and it went, so much. I mean, Ragans wasn't sharp. If you look at that game, I mean, he did okay at the start, and then he kind of gave up a big inning. Just trying to look at the box score right here. If he failed to go 6 innings for, I believe it was like the 5th or 6th straight start. I mean, that's just been a huge red flag. But, he gave up 4 innings, but then Schreiber tried to come in. He couldn't minimize the damage. He gave up 3 runs. And then we had kind of Zerpa and Chris Stratton kind of at the end kind of give up their own specials with 3 runs between the two of them. It's just one of those games that was close, and then the wheels came off, and it's just unfortunate because you have all this excitement and you have all these fans, especially, Kauffman Stadium. Sometimes like it doesn't always fill out. Mm-hmm. and the Royals kind of just blew it, especially in game 1. And I felt like that set the tone for the series. It kind of set the tone of, wow, we just lost to the Cardinals by 7 runs. And especially coming off 2 straight losses to the Astros, I think that really affected the rest of the weekend. Yeah,
and I think we kind of saw that bleed into game 2. Noah Cameron comes up after the Ragans and Lugo IR stints. Deals again, man. Like this kid pitches with so much poise on the mound. It's actually pretty dang impressive for a rookie. Goes 6 1/3, 2 hits, 1 earned, 3 strikeouts. Like he gets a loss in this game, by the way. Well, that goes back to the offense not doing anything. But just talking about Noah Cameron before we get into the negatives is that it's just been fun to watch him pitch. I think he was perfect through 4 2/3 of this one before he gave up a hit. Like no walks. Just like we've talked about him having one of the safest floors to be a major league starting pitcher. And I think he's showing us that in his first 2 starts, he can be a major league starting pitcher.
I mean, I've been really impressed. I mean, I've always been a little bit worried about his fastball. I mean, just because it's not a huge velocity one. When you look at stuff metrics, it doesn't really rate really well. But going from 5 walks against the Rays to 0 yesterday was huge. And against a lineup that's much better in St. Louis than the Rays. I mean, the Rays are kind of known for being a little bit more free swinging, and the Cardinals are known for being very disciplined. And Noah Cameron, arguably did the same thing, but if not somewhat better because he didn't have any walks. Now he did give up that home run to Donovan, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think he's a guy that might stay long-term. I don't know if Q starts thinking about doing a 6-man rotation once Lugo and Ragans get healthy, especially since we don't know what the health status is of Ragans. It kind of sounds like this groin issue might be lingering. Gosh, sorry, got a lot of coughs today. He's a guy he attacks really well. His breaking stuff is really good. Again, his cutter was generating a lot of whiff today. I think there's something here, and again, this kind of shows what we've been talking about the last couple of years of the Royals pitching development, doing a 180 since the Alec Lewis Athletic article.
Yep.
It kind of seems like, again, they're more analytically advanced. They're really focusing on really developing guys' repertoires, adding pitches, changing grips. Those weren't things we were hearing under Cal Eldred in that era and the Dayton Moore era. So, I mean, I'm really excited by Cameron. And I think that's kind of the cool thing is like, okay, if Noah Cameron's a success story, what are some other ones like in the chamber in AA and high A and low A? I think this is a great time to be a Royals fan because I think we're starting to see the pitching development start to be a strength of this organization, which is what you need if you want to be a successful, not just a small market team, but any market team. I mean, the Dodgers, the Yankees, they're known for doing the same things. And now we are too, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, and you talked about kind of the whiff rate on the cutter. He was a near 40% on that. You had 39% on the cutter, 35% on the slider. The slider looked absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
But like you kind of mentioned with the development of pitching, it's like Drew Beam's probably a right-handed Noah Cameron. Like that guy has one of the safest floors in the entire minor league system. And again, I'm going to get us off on a tangent. Sorry, we're going to talk rest about the Cardinals.
A lot of tangents. Let's do it.
You see the way that their bat development has kind of turned out over the years, and I think maybe that's why they went super arm heavy last year. Brian Bridges likes the arms. He knows you can always trade arms. He learned that from his Braves days. You can always trade pitching prospects and you can get something in return for them. They went very pitching heavy last year besides Cags. Like they weren't going to pass up Cags for an arm at 1.5 or whatever they had last year for the pick. But they could do the same again this year. We did our first mock draft with Just Baseball. I had 2 bats going to them just because bats were the weakest area. But in my mind, I do think there's potential that they take a prep arm and overpay them because they have that extra money with that pick 28 thanks to the Bobby Witt Jr. MVP, or was it Rookie of the Year? I can't remember.
Yeah, or the MVP finalist.
Yeah, MVP finalist. Yeah. So like, I think having that extra money, you could see them to go prep. They could go college arm. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they went back-to-back arms in the first 2 rounds just because they're picking so late.
And I think you bring up a good point. I think part of it is obviously pitching development, but I think it's also scouting. I mean, it's the scouting. Again, you think about like the last draft, Brian Bridges was kind of the one in charge. We're kind of seeing that the scouts are kind of like, okay, where they're starting to change it up in terms of the arms that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good sign too. And I think you got to be excited if you're a Royals fan of, hey, like, we're seeing some early success with this last draft, not just in terms of Cags, but the Drew Beams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those kind of guys that are moving across the system.
David Shields.
David Shields. I mean, that's another good one. Had a great debut in Columbia, as an 18-year-old. And I think that's because we've seen kind of some of the stunting of some of their developments with some of the other arms. I was watching Blake Walters again, like today, just I don't know about that guy, man. It just hasn't been good. So, but again, that was kind of pre-Bridges draft. It looks like they've kind of learned a lot of their lessons and kind of trying to find guys that the right balance of both prep and guys that can move in the system quickly.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to see on the big side on the prep arms, at least, it's not going to be necessarily guys who have just elite stuff, but it's going to be guys who find the strike zone, right? Like Blake Walters has elite stuff, but he's got more walks than he has strikeouts this year. Yeah. So I think you're going to see more of the David Shields type where there's some projection on like the fastball. Like Shields sits like 90 to 93 right now with the fastball, but he's topped out at 94, I think. And that's a guy that you're going to hope that project. He's only barely turned 18 in September. Like that's a guy you're going to hope that projects and gets into like the 93 to 94, 95 range. But he's a competitor on the mound. Like he's a bulldog at his age, and he just lives in the strike zone and has really good secondaries to go with it. So I think you're going to see Bridges kind of shift to more of those kind of guys.
And I think that's a good point that you made too, is that I think we're kind of starting to see the philosophy come through. I mean, and we know that this, for example, like Cleveland has known for like, we're going to get command guys, and then we're going to try to see if we can develop their velocity and their stuff over time. Tampa is kind of the opposite. They like velocity guys, and then they try to say, hey, we can iron out command. It looks like the Royals are more comfortable with the former. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. Like, it's not all about velocity. It's all about like your movement and can you get that IVB to be high. We see that with Chris Bubich, right? He doesn't have elite velocity, but he has elite movement. He has elite IVB. He has elite extension. Those are things that you can coach. And the Royals have shown, like in our pitching development, we can coach that, and we can get these guys to be successful, like a Noah Cameron, without the elite velocity. And that's a great place to be, I think, as an organization.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. It's because they're not like completely ignoring guys with elite metrics, right? Like
No,
we saw in the draft last year. I think this is kind of interesting point to make before we go on to the rest of the Cardinals thing. But like they went and got those safe floor guys like Shields and Beam. And Shields, of course, has the higher upside. But they also went out and got a bunch of reliever type arms who have high octane fastballs and like a really good slider. Like maybe they walk the world, but there are guys that might be quick risers through the minor league system. And then next thing you know, you got a bullpen arm throwing 98 plus with a nasty sweeper. And so like they went out and targeted those guys too. So it wasn't like they were just getting these safe floor guys who don't have velo, who don't have metrics on their pitches. They were getting like a mixed bag of them.
yeah, and we kind of even see it like on their like in what they're scouting and what they're trading for too. I mean, look at a guy like Steven Cruz, for example. I mean, they got him in the Michael A. Taylor trade with Evan Sisk. I mean, Michael A. Taylor, a guy that they were looking to get rid of anyways, who had Cruz had big stuff but control issues, and they've kind of basically like owned that in and kind of turned him to a really solid reliever. I mean, yes, he has some of the walk issues and command issues, but you look at what he's doing now. And the fact is, like the Royals, all they had to do was give away Michael A. Taylor, a guy, like I said before, they were originally going to get rid of him anyways. Yeah. I mean, that's a shrewd move, and that shows again their scouting, top to bottom, has just really improved.
Yeah, I love it. Get back to the Cardinals series. I don't have a ton more to add here. Only 2 hits in the second game. That's why they lost. Like I don't think we have much more than we can add on there. Like Michael and Vinny were the only 2 that got hits in that entire game.
Yeah,
pitching was dominant. Cruz was dominant. Even Zerpa pitched well, even though he's rocking his over 6 ERA right now. Jordan Walker hit a home run off of Noah Cameron in the 6th, and then I think they sealed the deal. Or no, that sealed the deal because it was a 1-0 game. Sorry, I thought this was the 2-1 game.
No, this was 1-0. 1-0.
And then they pull off a win today, and they still only score 2 runs. So the pitching staff just has to hold everybody to less than 2 runs, and we'll win games.
Yeah, I mean, 2 really good pitching performances. I mean, at the very least, game 1 wasn't the best pitching performance, and then you saw game 2 and game 3 was really good. The Royals did just enough offensively to win today. Michael Garcia with a big hit. Again, looking good in the leadoff spot. I know that he struggled there this year, but with Jonathan India kind of having his struggles, it's kind of nice to see Michael kind of taking more of a role. And by the way, kind of a tangent here, I was able to go to an STM photo day where I got to go onto the field and a bunch of players like would kind of see us and talk to us. Michael Garcia, good dude, stayed longer than he needed to take pictures with fans.
Cool.
I got to talk to him a little bit, not like talk. I just kind of like saying, hey, what's up, man? Like, those kind of things. Yeah. And so really good dude. So it was really cool to see him like be out there with the fans and then come up with a big moment at the end of the game. So you always got to love that from a fan perspective of the guys who are good people do good things on the baseball field.
Yeah, I love that. We want to get into some other news before we kind of wrap up here. Biggest one, of course, we talked about earlier, Seth, Lugo, Cole Ragans onto the IL. Big blows to the rotation. Noah Cameron, of course, is one of the guys who's going to step in. It seems like Jonathan Boland, he got promoted as well, and Chris Stratton was DFA'd. So Boland might get a chance to log some multi-innings probably. Don't know who they're going to go for the 5th spot in that rotation, but this hurts.
It does. I mean, I think we kind of expected Ragans to go on the IL after his start. You're just like, okay, you tried skipping him a start. That obviously didn't work. Let him get fully healthy and just let's not mess around with that. Lugo's was so unexpected, right? Because it sounds like something with his finger. And again, I don't know. I don't know what that injury is like. But for a guy like Lugo who throws 10 pitches and relies so much on like different grips, like that's huge. So I can understand why they put him on the IL too. As you said, Cameron is kind of the easy solution. I would not be surprised that they do a bullpen game with maybe trying to test out the length of Boland, who is a former starter, maybe have Lynch kind of extend a little bit, maybe have Steven Cruz in the opening. You're kind of hoping it's only a 1-start solution, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of a backbreaker because so much of this Royal success this year has been led by their pitching, especially Seth Lugo, who's, been really bounced back after kind of a slow start. Cole Ragans hasn't been as effective, but Cole Ragans also still strikes out a crap ton of people. I mean, he's still like, I know FWAR is, according to some people out there, it's like it's the bad FWAR, but it's the bad WAR. But it values strikeouts, and Cole Ragans is one of the best in the league when it comes to strikeouts. So, I mean, at the very least, they lose a guy that's gonna get swings and misses. Can they replace that? That will be interesting to see.
Yeah. And I think one of the big news on all that too, and Bolin coming up as Chris Stratton was DFA'd.
Yeah.
I don't like to cheer for people getting
No.
DFA'd, but this was this is just salary that they had to eat. Like, he wasn't providing anything to this team. He's coming up in mop-up roles and still giving up a lot of runs and like really making sure that the Royals had no chance to win games. It just was one of those experiments that didn't work out, right? They tried to go and sign some bullpen arms. Will Smith didn't work out. Chris Stratton didn't work out. Like, that's what happens sometimes when you pay for relievers, and they paid for relievers, and frankly, were older, and so like, you run that risk of those guys not panning out. And I think you've kind of talked about this, but what I think that lesson that they learned really quickly is now they're going internally, right? They're trusting guys like Evan Six. They're trusting guys like Steven Cruz. Gonna try Jonathan Bolin. Like, they're developing these guys internally, which makes me feel like they'll have to do less of the signing of Will Smith or the Chris Stratton.
Yeah, and I get that why you would get a guy like Will Smith or a guy like Chris Stratton. I know a lot of it was like, we got to change the culture in the clubhouse. I mean, we're coming off a 106 loss season.
Yeah,
we need guys that have been winners and been with winning teams. Will Smith had won like World Series with the last 3 teams he was on. Chris Stratton was also on the Rangers to win a World Series. So I get why they kind of bring in those guys and say, hey, we need some mentors. But you can only do that so much if they can pitch. And we saw that Will Smith and Chris Stratton just couldn't pitch. You know, it was tough. I mean, Stratton had some interesting secondaries, but the fastball was just so poor that he could just never get over that. And like, he became at the end just a mop-up guy. Yeah. And if you have a mop-up guy like him, you'd rather have that to a young guy or somebody with some upside, not somebody who's at the end of his career. You know, like you said, I'm not cheering for this. I don't think Chris Stratton's the problems for like the Royals struggles, and anybody that thinks he is, you know, can go bark up a tree. I don't know what the proper term is, but you know, this was time. I'm glad that John Sherman says, you know what, we'll eat the money and move on. And I think this opens up, because I think Jonathan Bolin can be a really good reliever. Yeah, he's got really good stuff. He's got really good size. He started off pre-TJ as kind of one of those guys that was competing with that 2018 class. He's always been a very low walk, high strikeout guy, and then he got hurt. So I'm really excited to see Bolin get a chance, because I think he can really be an arm that can have some long-term upside.
Yeah, I think he's a guy we've been kind of waiting on for a while. He was older on draft day, and so he's like 28, 29 at this point. And so he's like at the later end of his career, and like, now's his time. He's got nothing to prove in Omaha anymore, and it'll be cool to see him on the roster. With all the roster shuffling, I think we probably see Luke Molly get DFA'd here soon. It just seems like you got Salvi and Freddie on the roster. Dairon Blanco came back today. I think some other guys like Tyler Molly and like those things are going to have to get activated here soon. So like, he seems like the odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Clark has paternity list, so he's going to be back. Luke Miley had that home run in Baltimore, which was awesome. You know, I think he could be a decent backup catcher, but we have a decent backup catcher in Freddie. So it's like, we really don't need him. You can't really keep 3 catchers. That's just part of the biz. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I think that's kind of the expected move. You know, I think with this, and we'll talk maybe more in the series coming up. I know people want to see Hunter Renfroe DFA'd. Yeah. He seems to be kind of the guy against left-hand starting pitchers, and the Royals are going to be facing Robbie Ray on Monday, or most likely Robbie Ray. So I think probably Renfroe's probably on the team for a little longer, but I don't know. I think this is kind of the first sign of some shuffling, right? I mean, you DFA Chris Stratton, and then obviously the next news, right, is you're promoting Jac Caglianone to AAA. Yep. So now it's like, hey,
you need a right field spot.
Real. Yeah, things are getting real now. So,
and I think if we have Cags in AAA, it's like an outfielder needs to make a move in AAA, right? It's probably the big leagues. I know we saw Dairon get called back up, but I think it's like, you see all this shuffling. Like John Rave, I think we have to talk about. Like, this guy is absolutely tearing the cover off the ball in Omaha. 293, 385, 527 / 912 OPS. He's got 6 doubles, 4 triples, 7 home runs, 20 RBIs, 21 walks, and 15 stolen bases. Strikeouts are an issue. Some swing and miss to his game for sure. But you also have Hunter Renfroe in the outfield. So it's like you're watching, it's kind of like the Drew Waters scenario, right? Like something had to change with MJ Melendez because like you weren't getting anything out of him. So got to give Drew Waters a shot here. But it's like, I think if you see Renfroe get DFA'd, it's probably going to be John Rave.
I agree. I think John Rave has done enough to merit a call up. I know he's kind of an interesting case because, you know, he's been Rule 5 eligible for at least a couple seasons from what I know. He hasn't been selected. He had kind of big strikeout rates when he first came to AAA. He's lowered those every year. He doesn't have like really great average exit velocity at the surface level, but his like 90th percent exit velocity has been pretty good. His hard hit rate is 49.5% this year. He has a 9.2% barrel rate. You know, he doesn't chase. He's kind of a very patient hitter. He has a sub 39% swing rate. So he's kind of very much like he doesn't really swing a lot, which is a lot different than a Drew Waters, for example.
Yeah.
But at this time, it's like you need to ride somebody with some upside. I think John Rave has done enough to earn a call up. Maybe he doesn't last a long time, but at this point, you're just trying to like ride the hot hand until you can find that trade suitor for that big deal, right?
Or riding.
Yeah, or Cags, right?
Yeah.
Ride the hot hand for Cags, because at the end of the day, it's like we probably still need another month for probably Cags. Like,
yeah.
I mean, now we know that's like the possibility of him being called up is in play right now, right? Like they wouldn't set him up to AAA if they were like, no, we're not going to play until 2026. Them calling up AAA is saying like we expect them to play at some point this year, but it's not going to be June 3rd, right? It's not going to be like June 15th. It's probably not going to be till July at the soonest. So
this is a fun team if the outfield like mid-June, July, like Taylor Ward, Kyle Isbell, and Jac Caglianone.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, right? Like, I mean, that's
not saying Cags is going to hit the ground running. Like he could hit his struggles like Matt Shaw did with the Cubs and then get sent back down. Like that,
right.
That's a big possibility. Or he's like Wyatt Langford and just takes off. Like you just don't know like how guys are going to adjust and how long it's going to take them to adjust. But Cags has shown at every level, like he doesn't take very long to adjust. Not going to say that's going to be just so simple for him to do at the big league level. But yeah, that's fun outfield.
It's a fun outfield. No, I agree. I mean, you think about that. If you have Taylor Ward, Kyle Isbell, and Jac Caglianone, that's an outfield you can feel very good about, right? Because that means you're also your 5-6 holes, which maybe allows Michael or India to be maybe in the 7 hole, right? I mean, it's like there's some possibilities. I know it's really easy to be down about this Royals team, but once things kind of start to get in motion, this team could be a really big. I mean, you could see the Royals kind of do what the Tigers did. It kind of feels a little bit like the Royals and the Tigers are kind of switched this year, where the Tigers, like the Royals, got off to a hot start, and then the Tigers kind of finished strong. I could see it happening in the inverse, where the Tigers get this hot start, and the Royals are the ones kind of surging at the end because they got Cags and Taylor Ward and so on.
Yeah, and I think you're 26 and 22 about a third of the way through the season, right? Like, so there's still 2/3 of games to get played out. So things aren't over. Not time to panic yet. Time to worry, but I don't think it's time to panic. Anything else you want to chat on before we kind of give final thoughts?
I don't know. I'm just glad this Cardinal series is over, so I don't get any more people in my mentions. Like I mean, this is a rant for another time, but it's like. I know I just said, of all the Cardinals, we're losing to the Cardinals of all people. And then I get all these Cardinals fans who don't follow me or I don't follow them. And they're just like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by like, of all people? We're a good team. We won 12 of 13. It's like, you know what? You guys have the biggest small man complex I've ever seen for like a baseball team. It's like, unless like people tell you you're the best fans in baseball, you have to like argue about everything and tell us like, we still exist. It's like, okay, you guys are good. All right. I'm sorry. The Cardinals are a good team in an NL Central that's been totally poor this year. That's really just between them and the Cubs right now. So
yeah, I mean, they got a plus 38 run differential because they're probably beating up on the Pirates. So
yeah, the Central stinks. I didn't even realize the Brewers were as bad as they were. I mean, the Brewers are they're basically not good. Yeah, they're basically poor man's Royals right now. It's like so. it could be worse, Royals fans. We could be in Milwaukee right now because, God, that's a real depressing sight now.
It could get worse for the Royals on this road trip because they got a pretty tough road trip.
They could.
They got the San Francisco Giants first, who have a plus 47 run differential, and they're in a 3-game winning streak. They're a game out of the Dodgers in the NL West. So that's going to be a tough 3-game series. And then they go to the Twins, who can't stop winning baseball games. So finally lost today, I think.
Yes, they did.
For the first time. And they won 12 or 13 in a row.
13
stupid.
in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
They're up to a plus 35 run differential, and they're still 5 games out of the Tigers, which is wild. That's how bad they were before that run.
And the Tigers can't lose, right?
Yeah.
And then the Tigers are just Javi Baez has found the fountain of youth, or I don't know, maybe he's gone to Balco or something, and now he's suddenly really good.
Let's use the Guardians argument, though. They're 13-12 against teams greater than 500.
Oh my God. Guardians Twitter is don't say that, or else we're gonna get nothing but replies.
Yeah.
And they got swept. They got swept by the Reds.
Season. Yeah.
They got swept by the Reds of all the teams. I mean, it's like a wild weekend of baseball. The Dodgers got swept by the Angels. The Guardians got swept by the Reds. It's I mean, this is gonna be a tough road trip because the Giants really good pitching. The offense is kind of streaky, but that ballpark is kind of insane. So I'm really curious to see how Q kind of situates it because of Triple's alley. And then the Twins are a hot team, and the Royals have traditionally played pretty poor at Target Field the last couple of years. So that'll be interesting. But a good thing is I know that Buxton and Carlos Correa have been on the IL for concussion protocols. Maybe one or two of them will both be out. But the Twins kind of seem like even with those guys out, they have somebody step up. So, I guess we'll just see. Yeah.
I think the moral of this podcast is just be thankful we're not the Pirates, Rockies, Orioles, or Angels. So
I know. Well, Angels beat the Dodgers 3 times. So, maybe it isn't good to be an Angels fan. I mean, but then again, they're probably going to lose 3 to the A's next because they're on this high, and then they're going to just get swept and then go back to I don't know what the heck to think of the Angels. They're just such a weird team.
Yeah. Maybe a trade partner in the future. Hey,
hopefully
Taylor Ward, come on down.
Come on.
You are a Royal.
Come on, Ron Washington. We need you to seal the deal here, man. Yeah. You're a former Royals Academy guy. We need you to get us Taylor Ward.
We have pitching.
Yes.
So come on down. Come knock.
Kyle Hendricks is not going to do it for you long term, guys. Come on.
He might. You never know. Never know.
Fountain of youth, Kyle Hendricks.
Well, I think that does it for us. Glad we're back this week. We're going to keep trying to go consistently as much as possible weekly. College baseball season's heating up for me, so we'll see what we can do here, but we're definitely going to keep trying to come weekly every Tuesday morning to you all. Really enjoying this, so until next time, go Royals.
Go Royals.